Worship leaders. There is a lot of room for creativity and musicianship when it comes to arranging a worship song. But there are a few irrefutable laws that you would break at your peril. Let's talk about it. Hi, welcome to Blueprint Sounds. My name is Nathan Smith. Thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to give you one irrefutable law of arranging a worship song that you have to follow, and that if you don't follow, things get awkward really quick. And here it is. So let's say you've got a worship song and it kind of starts slow and airy like a lot of worship songs do nowadays. And let's say your arrangement is intro, verse, chorus 1, verse 2, chorus 2. Pretty typical. Here's the rule. If you haven't gotten to the full groove by verse 2, at some point in verse 2, if you haven't gotten there, the congregation is allowed to get up and leave. It's very popular right now to have a song that starts low and we have this verse that's very airy. You might just hear a pad and a vocal. And then that first chorus is sort of the same thing. And the song is building up. We all know that the bridge and the chorus are going to be bangers. They're really going to get big. But it starts low. Well, for a small church, so you've got 5 people on your team, you cannot afford to leave the drums out of your song when you're in verse 2, because the drums are the foundation of the band. They let everybody know that the song has really gotten off the ground. If the song doesn't get off the ground by verse 2, you're in big trouble. So what do I mean by the full groove? Here's what I mean. Your drums have really 3 main parts. The toms are for fun, the cymbals are for fun, but the meat of the drums are the kick drum, the snare drum, and the hi-hat. What I mean by drums come in full is your drummer should be playing the kick drum, the snare drum, and the hi-hat in his basic pattern by verse 2. The bass player should be playing the rhythm that goes along with that kick drum pattern in full by verse 2. If that doesn't happen, the song sounds listless, like we're just waiting for something else to happen. And if you stretch that out, you can stretch that out over a verse. You can make that go through the first chorus. But in verse 2, you've got to do something different. And people are expecting us to get to the point. You must get to the point of the song. The point of the song is the groove. That's what the drums and the bass are for. Now, before I see nasty comments popping up in the comments section, I know what you're thinking. What about Hillsong United? Hillsong United does this constantly. They are always stretching and pushing the envelope on how far back they can stretch the rubber band before they let it go and they get big. I could name half a dozen songs off the top of my head where you're listening through, the vocals are low, okay, we're hearing all the synths, and it just keeps doing that. And we've got this long epic song with these verses and we're telling a story. And the song isn't going to get big until chorus 3 or the bridge. And then all of a sudden, it's massive because it's Hillsong United. Well, why can't we do that? Hillsong does it. Well, should we talk about all of the things that Hillsong has in their production that you and I don't have in our church services? How about 20 musicians and singers on stage? A gigantic pad sound with 5 other layers underneath it. Moving cameras to keep things interesting. Taya on vocals, gigantic light wall, and 20,000 people who all seem to know the song and who are all singing the lyrics. Do you and I have that on a typical Sunday morning? No. The rule of arranging, the best way that I've ever heard it put, is this. You're pulling a thread. You're pulling a thread throughout the entire song, keeping things interesting so that the person wants to listen to what comes next. If at any point that thread breaks, if at any point the listener goes, meh, they're not surprised anymore, they're not interested anymore, then you as an arranger have failed at your job, and you have to go back and figure out, how can I keep pulling that thread so that it remains interesting? When you listen to a Hillsong song, there are all of these little bells and whistles, little guitar parts, little synth parts, additional vocal, right, to make that vocal really big. Even when it's just at a whisper, it still somehow sounds exciting and large. Those are all production pieces that are part of the arrangement. They become one and the same, right? So a Hillsong song is married to the production. It is an experience with the lights and the sound and all of those musicians and the pads and the moving cameras. There's all the stuff that goes into that experience. Well, pluck that melody and that song out and give it to a small church with 5 people on their team. Are they going to provide the same experience? No, they're not. Right? It's just not going to happen. They don't have the resources, and these aren't professionals. We're talking about volunteers here. And that's okay. That's all right. Well, you have to play to your strengths as a church. And when it comes to just the bare bones of a song, you can get the song done with the groove if it comes in on time. You can't wait forever like Hillsong. We have to rearrange the song to suit our own purposes. So again, that rule is you have to be into the groove of your song at some point during verse 2, because the drums give a foundation and they just give stability to the entire band. The congregation needs that as well, because they have to know what the beat is. They have to feel that it's secure. If you go that long, if you go through a verse 1, chorus, verse 2, and you still haven't given the crowd, the congregation, any security, it feels awkward. It feels insecure, and people get restless. They're like, why isn't the song going anywhere? Well, that's why. It's because we were trying to do something that maybe wasn't our wheelhouse. That should not be a discouragement to you. It just means that we have to be clever, and we have to think about how our arrangement is going to sound in our house, not somebody else's house. Follow your design and do what your church is good at, not what you see some other church doing. Hey, if you found that helpful, subscribe to my YouTube channel, or better yet, go to blueprintsounds.com. There's a free PDF download for you there called 23 Things Every Worship Team and Tech Team Should Hear. It's filled with good advice, stuff that you probably should have heard years ago, but I'm going to tell you now. Have a good day, and God bless.